Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sports Debates. I'm Ryan. We've got Dwayne. We've got Emmanuel. The NBA Finals are going on, and it is a great series, but the offseason is picking up. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We've got a big trade that happened, and then we're going to be talking about where Kevin Durant's going. We've created some mock trades for him, some of the teams that are interested, and we'll discuss how those look. But let's start with the big trade that happened Sunday morning. Desmond Bane was traded from the Grizzlies to the Magic in exchange for Cole Anthony, Contavious Caldwell Pope, and 4 first round picks. Also, a first round pick swap. So, Magic are going all in. They've got Paulo as their guy. They've got Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner under big contracts. Now they bring over Desmond Bane, also under a big contract. Grizzlies, on the other hand, looking to reshape a little bit, get rid of one of their big three players in exchange for a ton of draft picks. So we're going to look at both angles of this. Let's start with the Magic. Back-to-back playoff appearances, back-to-back first-round exits, but a very bright future and a really young and a talented core. So, Dwayne, how do you like Desmond Bane's fit on the Orlando Magic?
It isn't a bad fit for them, but it didn't necessarily give them exactly what they needed. Um, well, it got them what they needed. Let me rephrase that. It got them what they needed. Now they're missing stuff all over again.
Hmm.
They had very good catch and shooting in Contavious Caldwell Pope. He was a great catch and shoot, which that is something they need now because now you do have two big scorers, but now your other pieces aren't as strong because you can't rely on Jalen Suggs to do that. Can't rely on Jonathan Isaac to do that. I mean, Wendell Carter's a good one, but then there's a whole now he's outside the paint, and you kind of like him more in that midi spot. So it's a whole lot there that really they did a good job in getting something they needed. Now they removed too much, but it's not like they made themselves 10 times better or 10 times worse. I feel like you gave a little too much. If you're just doing one player, draft picks would probably stay the same. But both of those players and the same amount of draft picks, I don't necessarily agree.
My thoughts on this is I think Bane is the perfect fit for the Magic. They required a shooter, as we saw them struggle in the playoffs because they lacked that shooting, and they got it with Desmond Bane. He's also not a defensive liability, which means you gain a greater amount with little to no drawbacks. You're seeing this here as the trade goes through. You're thinking, wow, you gave up those two guys and those picks, but really, those picks could be really hit or miss really easily. So I think Bane or the Magic's part of this at least, they're not as bad as people play it off to be. They're
Absolutely.
definitely a win now right now. And another thing is that the contracts you guys got these guys a lot of the young guys locked up for a good bit for a large portion of money, but also the cap is going to continuously rise, giving you more space as well. I really would give the Magic's part of this trade a B plus, and I can see them being even the fourth seed next year. Team's still relatively young, and now they have a new piece that will learn to mesh together. So I see maybe fourth team in the Eastern Conference final or Eastern Conference.
Yeah, they're definitely spending like a top team. You've got Wagner, Bain, and Suggs all under contracts that are over $35 million. But you still haven't paid Paulo Banquero, who's got a team option and he'll be entering free agency in a little bit. So definitely a guy that they're going to want to throw a lot of money at. But I guess if you're can win a championship, then you're going to hand out those contracts. The Magic were bottom in the league in 3-point shooting last year. Last in 3-pointers made per game and last in 3-point percentage. Desmond Bane, he's a 3-point shooter. Last year averaged 19, 6, and 5. He's a career 41% 3-point shooter. So they definitely get that to add to their team. One of the things I talked about when we were previewing the offseason for the Magic was I wanted them to, they were also last in assists per game, and they didn't really have someone that was distributing the ball. Their assist leader was actually Franz Wagner, who's a small forward. Desmond Bane would have led them in assists last year, but it's only at 5.5, so it's not necessarily crazy. And he's more of a shooting guard, but I'm glad they addressed the 3-point problem because that's something they needed.
Well, that's where I would have kept Cole Anthony. Though he's not the most prolific playmaker, he's a good drive and kick. And, for a good shooter like Desmond Bane, or even a solid shooter in Paulo, you leave that room there for that to happen. So that's where I'm like, yeah, it's definitely a better trade than people are making it. 100%. Like people are dogging this trade because of the picks, but blah blah blah. We don't know. That's what picks are. They're assumptions, possibilities, not necessarily something secure and we know. The players are, and that's where I have a gripe because I know that the players that were they traded away fit their system in a drive and kick system. So that's where I'm like, who else are you having step up there other than Jalen? Jalen sucks, real. Offensively, he's good, but not at the level where they need it. So that's where I gotta see. I gotta see it to believe it.
Yeah, looking over at the Grizzlies now, a team that just a few years ago was one of the best teams in the Western Conference, but they never were able to make it far in the postseason. They had a big three: John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Desmond Bane. There was talks: do you blow it up? Do you move one of the guys? The answer, at least for now, is move one of them. That was Desmond Bane. So you've got Ja and Jaren Jackson Jr. You just added a veteran shooter in Kentavious Caldwell Pope. You brought in another point guard behind the injury-prone John Morant, and you cleared up some cap space. This is what you needed, and now they've got a little bit of money to spend on top of 4 new first-round picks for the future. So, Emmanuel, if this is the only major shakeup that the Grizzlies make, are they still contenders in the West, or what direction do you want them to take if not?
So right now, as things are looking, Grizzlies are absolutely not contenders. And you look in the West is completely way too stacked for a team of that caliber to even be considered contenders. And I think they can keep going in the direction they're in right now, maybe using those picks that they just got to trade for someone else, But I kind of like the point guard pickup they got from the Magic, as we know John Morant to be pretty injury prone. And oddly enough, the Grizzlies played better when John Morant isn't on the court. So maybe this makes the teams not such a void at the backup point guard position. And also with the addition of KCP, as we saw in the playoff game against the Thunder, they don't have a leader in the locker room. When John went down, everything followed apart. Jaren Jackson Jr. wasn't the leader. People didn't respect him. So you got a problem there. So you got Kentavious Caldwell Pope, hopefully to be the veteran presence and keep the team together and maybe even give them a boost.
I think the business department, the office of the Grizzlies are not really doing their job. Don't get me wrong, Jaren Jackson and Ja are a great duo, but Desmond Bane was a great third. Like he was a really good third. And now you give that away for people that aren't terrible thirds, but aren't necessarily Desmond Bane level. And don't get me wrong, you know, it's a good trade when it comes to picks and even picking up players in a sense. You do round out the team a little better, and especially with leadership, I agree with that. Like there's a better leadership there with Caldwell Pope. To me, it doesn't seem like they're keeping that core. And I feel like if they might trade Jerry Jackson, I don't think they're going to trade Ja because on the occasion that Ja might be healthy, and then all of a sudden, it gets blown back in their faces. Now, I don't necessarily agree with trading Jerry Jackson. The office isn't necessarily don't seem terribly confident in their players. First of all, they're not in contention for anything, especially if the whole shift in the West with maybe Giannis, maybe KD, they're not in contention for anything. At the same time, if I'm looking at their habits, Jerry Jackson is definitely on that trade bench.
So if we trade John Morant, I'm making sure we trade him somewhere to the east. I don't want
Mm-hmm.
him in the same conference at me at all after we trade him. And honestly, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is more valuable to the team than John Morant, which it's only because John Morant's injury prone so often, and we all know the saying, the best ability is availability. So when you're out there and you play in this elite level defense, I kind of see you more valuable than John Morant. Don't get me wrong, John Morant's an absolute dog when he's on the court, but when he's not on the court, which seems to be a habit now, it really leaves you with something, missing.
Let me ask you a good question. This is why I said this is a front office thing. aside from injuries, I'm talking about suspensions.
Mm.
Do you think the Heat are having that, like having that type of stuff going on? Heat organization? No, right? That is a front office and GM and coaching issue. And that is what I'm saying. Them firing their coach, like it's just a pickup of bad habits recently.
That's what happens when you draft a point guard that can't be a leader for this team. You know, he doesn't take control there. You don't see the control there in the locker room. Like you see him go down, and then Jaren Jackson Jr. tries to step up and take his place as like the leader. Nobody respects him. They walk away. They upset. You know, but you need to have a leader that can still control this team off the court when they're not there. But John Morant doesn't have that personality type. He's too immature.
I think I would definitely explore the market for Jaren Jackson Jr. It's the last year in his contract, and he's definitely going to make a good paycheck in the offseason. He averaged 23 and 6, one of the best defensive players in the league. Put him on any contending team, and he's the type of piece that can put you over the top on both ends of the ball. If you got 4 first-round picks for Desmond Bane, you probably get a lot, maybe not as much since it's 1 year contract, but the value is there. And I wouldn't be opposed if they said, hey, let's just blow this up and keep Ja, but let's retool with a bunch of draft picks, use those in a few years, spend money offloading the contract, stuff like that. So I think that wouldn't be a bad idea. Now let's talk about a trade that is going to happen. It's just a matter of when and to where. Future Hall of Famer Kevin Durant is once again changing teams. The last year of his contract with the Suns, it's pretty much guaranteed at this point that he's going somewhere. Taking a look at the odds, it's the Heat and the Rockets leading at plus 250, followed by the Spurs, Wolves, and Raptors. But Durant has said that he wants to go to one of 3 teams: Spurs, Rockets, and Heat. A lot of reports have been coming out. From what we know, the Rockets have placed an offer. The Suns were underwhelmed with that offer. The Knicks are not interested as of latest report. Also, the Timberwolves were interested, but Kevin Durant does not want to go to Minnesota. A lot of drama there.
He don't want to win.
He doesn't want to win, exactly. So, like I said, last year his contract, but it's going to cost a lot to trade for him because he's owed $54.7 million. So you're going to have to try to find. That's why finding a package is impossible, because you have to move that money. Any team that he goes to, you're probably going over the cap if you're not already. The Suns said that they're looking for a comparable package to what they gave up for him when they acquired him from the Nets. Now, if you remember what that was Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and 4 first-round picks. Now, obviously, it's a little different because it's only 1 year left, but that's what they're looking for, apparently. So before we get into some ideas that we've come up with, Dwayne, what is a realistic package? What should the Suns realistically be expecting to get?
They should be expecting to get a good young player. I feel like that's 100%. And some draft picks. Or maybe a middle-aged player, a not so great young player, and some draft picks. But like all players in their peak and then draft picks, absolutely not. I feel like because he's older and his game is transcendent, like he can really play anywhere on any team with any pace, any set style. It's more or less that he's older, man. Like it's not the same thing when he was on the Nets. When he was on the Nets, we were seeing him do stuff like a carry job with the Nets. He can't necessarily do that anymore. And it's not because, he sucks or he's like a Paul George where he's just like declines so fast. No, it's really like how long can he really keep it up? The physicality of how not skinny he is, but how lengthy he is and how he plays his game, how he catches it in the post. Like, so realistically, you're going to have to draw back and have, a little bit less for him, if that makes sense. For the Suns to be underwhelmed is kind of like, yeah, okay, buddy. Like all you really have is KD. I mean, of course you have Devin Booker, but that would be dumb. And nobody wants Bradley Beal.
Can't trade him anyway. It's a no trade clause.
Right. All right. Right. So then you have, so it's like, you really can't be underwhelmed. Like you only have so much.
Yeah, so right now, like Dwayne said, for the Suns to be underwhelmed is quite concerning when you are not holding any of the cards right now. It's like you're robbing a bank. You know you're surrounded, and the negotiator's giving you one last chance to get out of it right here, and and you turn down the negotiator's offer, and now you're going to jail for life. But when you see this KD package, you're definitely not going to get 4 first round picks unless you're considering a trade with the Mavericks and their GM. Yeah, you're that's not happening. I definitely see you getting a young player and maybe even a vet, but more than likely, I see maybe 2 first round picks and 2 seconds. But yeah, that cap space for Kevin Durant coming in puts a lot of teams into the second apron, and then you're in the threat of losing draft picks, which a lot of teams don't want to do.
I think one other thing the Suns have to be prepared to take is a bad contract from another team, because teams are going to have to offload a big contract of their own, and it might be a guy that's getting overpaid, but they're going to have to take it because that's really the only thing that can be done for these teams to afford Kevin Durant. All right, so let's start with the Rockets because they supposedly sent in an offer. We all started to think of some mock trades, and these might be similar, they might be identical with the players involved. So, Emmanuel, why don't you start us off with a trade with the
So
Rockets?
I have the Rockets receiving Kevin Durant, a protected first round pick, preferably lottery protected. The Suns will receive Cam Whitmore, Fred Van Vliet for monetary reasons, two 2027 first round picks, a 2030 first round pick, and a 2026 second round pick.
I did Jalen Green to the Suns. Yes, Jalen Green and either Jabari or Fred, two first, and then the Rockets get KD and I forgot whoever their backup shooting guard and point guard would be. Grayson Allen. Thank you. It
Grayson
was
Allen?
Grayson Allen being your backup point guard is such a sad ordeal. I'm so
I
sorry.
mean, it is, but like you keep Sengun, you keep Thompson, but for the Suns wise, they get a solid young core with Jabari and Jalen, and you move Booker to the one. He's just going to have to take that up. Like he's going to have to be fine with that. Or you have Jalen at the one, but I don't think that's a good idea. Still
You
have
know,
good shooting in Jabari, so I mean,
I know we're talking trades here, but something that I would really like to see for the Suns, who are pretty thin at point guard position, would be a free agency signing of Markel Fultz, who is still a free agent.
Sixers legend.
wait, has it been a year?
He's been a free agent this
Maybe for
entire
yeah,
season,
the entire
Dang.
season. Yeah.
and he's a pretty
Wow.
good backup. So you're not asking
Very
him to be a
good.
starter, and I think you would have the monetary
Wait, the
wiggle
Magic
room.
dropped him?
Yeah, the Magic dropped him.
Wow.
Dwayne, mine is pretty much the same. Mine is Green, Smith, and then your first round pick from this year, and then you can throw in seconds or whatever if you want.
Mm,
I went chill on the draft picks. I essentially for all the teams I just gave them like this year's first because they
mm.
all are picking at pretty good spots, and then if they're a little farther back in the draft, threw in a couple others. But I think this is the perfect situation to get rid of Jalen Green if you really don't want to, if you're really not satisfied with him. Now, Manuel, you seemed a little hesitant or shocked by that decision. Share me your thoughts on that.
So my thought is this: is I still think Jalen Green can become an actual point guard. It's just that do I really want to quit on him right now? He's still really young and he's showed flashes of his greatness, but do I really want to trade him for Kevin Durant? But now that I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, heck yeah, I do. Heck yeah, I do. I got Fred Van Vliet as my point guard. I would have KD coming in. And I really like that deal. You have Dylan Brooks as well, who's a great defender. Amin Thompson still there.
Mm.
I'm really looking at this. I'm like, you know what? Actually, if I had to trade somebody, it would probably be Jalen Green. I'm not sure how Rockets fans would feel about that. I don't think that would be too mad to riot or anything.
I mean, and also you keep that solid bench and Cam, and you keep some of the players that held you a little bit in the playoffs as well.
Yeah.
So I think yeah.
So the amount of money Van Vliet's making is still in negotiation. He had a team option. They extended that deadline till the end of this month
Mm.
to accept it, but they're planning to negotiate a more team friendly deal so they can potentially bring in someone like Durant.
Isn't he getting paid like 40 mil?
His team option would be $45 million.
Yeah, he's getting paid a lot.
So they're going to have to restructure that contract if you want Durant, pretty much.
Dang, Fred VanVleet, 40 mil is
insane. Sir. All right. How about the Heat? What do you got for the Heat?
3 draft picks. Jaime Jaquez, and Terry Rozier. 4 KD and wait, does Bradley Beal have an option? Is that who
he has a no trade clause?
Yeah, so
he'd have to accept it.
Yeah, so if he doesn't want to go, he ain't moving.
I mean, he said he wanted to go to the Heat before.
I feel like he'd go to Miami though.
Yeah, so that would be the trade because they do have a lot of space, I believe.
Yeah, but Bradley Beal's contract is no.
I know. So like you kind of have to, but like they don't have anything else. So that like they have Hero and Bam. I'm not saying they don't, but you don't want to trade either one of those.
Well, are you giving up a draft pick from this year?
Yes.
Dang, a first round pick from this year?
Yes. Because with Jaime, he's good. Don't get me wrong, but he's a good rotational piece. That like he can be good in any rotation. That's fine. They have him playing, I believe, the small forward, and he's 6'6". So, you move him up to shooting guard or wherever you want with that when he's on the Suns. But then you also get rid of Terry Rozier's contract, which he looks like he's selling games.
Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't AR Austin Reeves supposed to be coming into free agency?
I believe so, yeah.
Maybe obviously he's going to be getting paid a pretty considerable amount, but maybe Tyler Hero and his hood tendencies partner up with Austin Reeves.
No, that's not happening. Their games are too similar.
Well, you do need a point guard. You do need a point guard there.
That's what I'm saying. Bradley Beal.
He's averaging 16 points per game. You're going to take that contract for like 3 more
taking
years.
On 250 mil guys.
250 mil guys, and then you Bam Adebayo. Y'all never winning something.
I mean, they have. I mean, I'm not saying they have to make a move, but if they want to keep the consistency of where they are or even better, a move has to happen. And I highly doubt they're going to do this year's pick, Jaime, and Terry Rozier for KD.
What about Nikola Jokic? I mean, okay.
Topic.
That's his name.
I think the Heat value him a little too much because he has potential.
Jovic.
Sorry.
Yeah. I was gonna say, this team here, I don't know why they're in considerations for getting him. I feel like
they're only in consideration because Durant said he'd go there. So okay,
I don't.
To.
I really
they
don't.
have cap space as well.
But I don't really see them trading for him when they have no win now mentality.
Yeah.
Because remember they're not winning anything right now, even with KD there. Remember, KD said he wants to get an extension to these teams as well.
Yeah.
You want to pay how old is KD?
36? Yeah.
You want to sign a long-term extension for Kevin Durant and risk losing everything else because you're going to have to pay a lot of other guys.
Who else are you paying a lot other than Tyler Hero and Bam?
Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo. I don't know how much they're going to pay Bam. Bam's going to be asking to break the bank on them.
Well, he's got 4 years.
4 years right now.
4 years. Yeah.
I think Jaime Jaquez will probably.
Well, if you ship him off, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but is that really a team that you think will be a contender?
I feel like this is going to be a similar situation.
East, yes.
Yeah. Even in the East, I would probably put them as like maybe a top 5 team.
Right, that's higher than they were with Jimmy most years.
All it takes.
Well, yeah, but like, okay, look,
that's
right?
true. Wait, that's true. He's got a point.
Okay, but like
that's all it takes in the East. That's kind of a valid point.
Okay, but like let's think about the teams that could probably beat them. I would have the Pistons over them. I'm not sure with the Celtics what they're going to do with Jason Tatum or in that whole scenario. So I'm not going to put them on this list just because of that. But let's say they are healthy, or they do keep it and run it back and just lose a draft pick. I'd probably put the Celtics. I'll probably put the Pacers.
Absolutely.
I'll probably put the Cavs. That's probably about it on the East because the East is so weak. But
I'm not sure about the Cavs simply
really,
because they're keeping the core, but I feel like they're going to change too many other pieces to where now they're inconsistent even in the season. Not saying they're going to drop a whole bunch. They still might be a seeding wise a top three seeding in the East, but team wise, feel like they're going to be at the level of the current Celtics.
yeah. But see, the thing is, when you're saying they're a contender, yeah, they're going to be a top 5 team in the East. But do you really think you're really hoping and praying that you land with good matchups in the playoffs? Because, like I said, those teams more than likely would beat them in the playoffs.
We said that about the Pacers.
Did we say that about the Pacers when they made a trade? I'm saying they're a top 5 team in the East if this trade goes through, but will they beat these other teams?
Yes, we said that about when they made a trade for Siakam.
Here's what I'm thinking for the Heat, because I agree that you don't have a whole lot that's enticing. So if I'm the Heat, I'm offloading 2 bad contracts, not bad, but big contracts to guys that are over 30. I'm giving the Suns Andrew Wiggins and Duncan Robinson. And then I'm giving you this year's draft pick and then a future of the Suns' choice, whichever year they want. Now, I expect the Suns will probably be like, well, what about Jaime Jaquez or Kel'el Ware? Because they're going to want a younger guy. And I would say you can have them, but then I'd probably take back one of those draft picks.
Yeah.
Or ask for a draft pick swap of some sort. So that's what I'm thinking for the Heat.
I noticed when I was thinking about making one, and I just couldn't figure out what would actually go through. I was thinking about adding in Kyle Anderson. So
yeah, that's another veteran on that team.
Oh wow, yeah.
Didn't know he was on the Heat. How about that?
Yeah, I know. I kind of forgot about
Slow-mo. Oh, slow-mo.
What a guy.
Yeah, Kyle Anderson, who y'all just traded for him for Jimmy Butler, and I was like,
all right, finally the Spurs, who I think they can definitely offer the best package because they have a lot. It's just a matter of will they? Because there's another superstar that they might trade for instead. So, Dwayne, what are you thinking for the Spurs?
Y'all gonna have to stay with me on this one.
Okay.
This is a rough one.
Okay.
The second pick and 2 of these 3 dudes: Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, or Stephen Castle.
Oh no! I can't let go of Stephon Castle.
It has to be 2 of the 3. Because when you look at Keldon Johnson, don't get me wrong, great player, but in exchange for Kevin Durant, absolutely. Devin Vassell, yet again, great player. In exchange for Kevin Durant, absolutely. The only one I have a quarrel with is Stephon Castle.
I think.
Because I think he's really good. You have to keep him. But it would be huge if they did trade him. To be honest, and I'm gonna take a step back for a second. Me personally, I'm the Spurs. The first one I'm offering is the second pick in Castle by themselves. That's it, like by themselves. If that doesn't work, then the second pick, Johnson and Vassell. Now it's heavy because those are players that are well liked in the organization and have played well. Keldon Johnson's been there for years. Vassell has been good for them. How long? 2 years. But if you're talking about Kevin Durant, you're gonna have to do that for the Suns because the Suns are gonna ask for a young core.
Yeah,
and you're giving them one.
Here's my mock trade: Spurs will receive Kevin Durant and a second pick, a second round pick. Suns will receive Keldon Johnson, Harrison Barnes, the second pick of this this NBA draft, another first round pick, and 2 seconds for Kevin Durant.
That's fair.
Yeah. And the Suns have a very big problem at center. If you watch some of the games, well, they have a big problem at everything.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was thinking Harrison Barnes, maybe, power forward sliding down at center or do whatever you have to do because Richards, I think his name, Nathan Richards, is not the guy.
Mine's actually similar to Dwayne's. It's Vassell and Johnson. I'm giving them their 14th overall pick. So that's their second of 3 draft picks, and then a 2027 first round pick. Only because I feel like as much as the Spurs don't need that number 2 overall pick,
But it's nice to keep it.
but it's nice to have. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure if 1 year Kevin Durant is who I want to spend on, but also that might be what gets you Durant if the Suns are being picky with their offers.
Right.
That could put you over the top. But I think the Spurs have this whole thing in their hands, because of what they can offer. They have the leverage against other teams and against the Suns.
I was just about to say that. I was about to say right now the Spurs have all the leverage in this situation when you're looking at the trade options, and when you're looking at this too, you really thinking if the Spurs keep the second round pick, more than likely they'll probably go center because they need a backup. I think they're backup.
Yeah, Zach Collins, dog.
They need help.
Yeah, they need help.
Serious help there. And, even if you don't pick something there, if you're not comfortable with the rookie, you can always probably trade that second round pick. I've even seen some trades for KD to the Warriors.
All right.
The Warriors for Jimmy Butler.
I would do that in a heartbeat.
I would never invite that snake back to any of my teams.
All right, before we go, who do you guys think that Durant is playing for at the start of next season?
Go, man. Go ahead.
I think the Rockets are going to somehow wrangle him into that team. Hopefully. Yes. Send him to the Eastern Conference.
I feel like they're going to be a little scared to have him in the same conference, even though they're not going to get any better. Well, hold on. No, I'm going to change it. He's going to the Spurs because they're going to because what they're going to want to do is make the West so strong that they bounce way low, and now those picks that they'll be losing their picks. Hold on, would they still be keeping their own picks? This is the question. The Suns. That's the question. Because if they're keeping their own picks from at least this year and next year, then you're going to want to send him to a West team so you suck and you get higher picks. If not, if they were not to keep their picks, then send him to the East.
All right, so I think he goes to the Rockets because I think that right now the Suns are saying they're underwhelmed to try to see if somebody else comes in with a better offer. But I don't think anyone really is. And I don't think the Spurs are going to go that direction. I think the Spurs are going to instead trade for Giannis. And so that's going to leave the Rockets offer as the best offer that they get. And they have to trade him. So they'll go to the Rockets.
So as we know, Kevin Durant does have a lot of leverage in this because, he's deciding where he wants to go. I really think he'll go to the Eastern team, which would be the Heat, because one, it's an easier way to the playoffs. Weaker conference, almost a guarantee to be an all-star in that situation. There's a lot of things that are a lot easier in the East, and I don't see him wanting to have a harder competition to run through the monster that is the West.
All right, so that'll do it for this episode. We will definitely be back when the finals are over, and we'll be talking about what's next in the NBA and then diving more into moves that will be happening this offseason. Should be exciting. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.